Hello and welcome to the Daily Brief. I am your host, the Mexican Conservative. Today we're going to be talking about what happened literally today. I believe it was today. There was another shooting at a school in Maryland, not 60 miles away or 50 miles away from Washington, D.C., where a young man walked into the school with a firearm, shot a young woman who's in critical condition, and shot a young man, and then was apparently shot himself. Thank goodness. I want to talk about this because this goes back to all that gun reform stuff that's been going on in the country lately, with students asking for it and demanding it and this, that, and the other. The way I see it, and the way I see it as it is, whoever this kid was, apparently he was 17 years old. So first of all, he shouldn't have had access to a gun. If he did have access to a gun, I want to know how he got it, and if it was his father's gun that wasn't properly locked up or stored, I honestly think that his father should face some kind of criminal charges. Because this gun wasn't safely stowed and locked up, meant that this kid, when he just was in a pissy mood, was able to go to his school and shoot someone. So first things first, find out where he got the gun and how he got the gun. Second off, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank the gods above. Thank all the gods on Mount Olympus. Praise you, Zeus, that there was an armed security officer on the campus who took action and shot this young man. That was the difference between Maryland and Florida. In Maryland, there was a security officer on site, and he ran away and peed himself in a corner somewhere, And then sheriff sat outside for 10 minutes as the kid was shooting up the school in Florida. Up here, no. In Maryland, they were like, when the student shot those two people, the security officer was immediately informed and immediately tracked him down and shot him. Thank goodness there was armed security on site. How many more people would this kid have injured, shot, or harmed that day, today, if it wasn't for that there being a security officer on site? And that's one thing that these gun reform people don't seem to understand. The only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. If you have a bad guy with a gun and nobody else with a gun, you get Florida, where unfortunately 17 young people died. 17 young people and teachers died because there was no one there. There was no good guy there with a gun to protect them. And that's just part of the sad state that the country is in, when you're praising the fact that there was an armed security guard at a school who was able to shoot someone. But it's insane to me to think that a lot of the people out there think that there shouldn't be any guns on school. There shouldn't be armed security on school. People shouldn't have guns on school. Well, look at this. Another example of why. Sandy Hook. If there would have been an armed security guard there, a security guard that just had a weapon, he could have stopped the guy who killed all those children. Florida. If the security guard who was working there, who was armed, hadn't run away and peed himself, he could have stopped the shooter. Or if the sheriffs in Florida had actually gone into the school and stopped the shooting from happening instead of sitting outside doing nothing, it could have stopped it from happening. This is the first true instance where a security on site with a gun saved lives. And I find it disturbing that people want to downplay it and attack the person for having the gun. It's all politics. It's all becoming such intertwined, interwoven, disgusting spiderweb of politics. It's like, who cares? Myself, I personally don't have children, and luckily all of my brothers and sisters are out of school. But if they were in school, I'd want to know that there was someone there, especially with the way the climate is in the country right now, that there was someone there with a gun to make sure that a gunman can't walk into the school and shoot them. I mean, I have a niece and nephew, and I would want to make sure that they are protected. Because if somebody walked into their school, I've been to the school. I know the school. There's security, but they're unarmed. I want one person who's armed in that school. If a shooter came into the school and started doing this stuff, at least there's a possibility that somebody can stop them before it gets too far. Stops them before it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 students who are dead. Before it's another Columbine, before it's another Florida, before it's another Sandy Hook. They want gun-free zones on school. Well, guess what? Now we just had an example of a gun-free zone being stupid. This kid brought a gun onto the school grounds in Maryland, shot two people, and because the school was not a gun-free zone and there was an armed security official there, he was able to shoot this kid and stop them before they did any more harm. That just takes all your anti-gun and all your gun-free zone crap and throw it right out the damn window. Any other school that's been a gun-free zone, Columbine, Sandy Hook, Florida, guess what happened? You had 15, 20 kids die because there was nobody there to protect them. Well, now there's 2 people that have been injured and the shooter's dead, or a shooter's been shot and he's down. It's over. Before he could continue his massacre or continue doing harm to everyone else in the school, an armed security person was able to stop them. So you can't sit there and gun-free zones and there shouldn't be any guns in school. You know, back in the 70s and the 60s, there were guns all over school. Nobody dare walk into a school and try to shoot it up because it wasn't just the teachers that were armed, it was the students. My dad tells me about how kids used to go to school in their pickup trucks and they'd have shotguns and rifles hanging up in their trucks. Nobody would walk into that school and shoot nobody because kids would run outside and go to their trucks and grab their guns. But then they instituted gun-free zones, and how many school shootings have there been now? Since gun-free zones were enacted? How many children have died when they enacted gun-free zones? It's asinine. How are you protecting children by taking away the one thing that protects the children? People who are armed, security who is armed, people who can actually defend the school, and you take that away. Now people who are nutso, now people who are unstable know, I can go to this place, and nobody will be able to stop me because nobody has a gun. It's ridiculous. It's insane. And this stuff just keeps happening over and over again. And then the liberals and the Democrats just keep pushing gun-free, we have to get rid of guns, and AR-15s, and blah, 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 blah. Yet every time it happens in a gun-free zone. It doesn't happen where places where people are armed. Because then these psychos and these criminals are too afraid to do it. Because they know someone's going to be armed. And someone will be able to fire back. And somebody will be able to defend themselves. It just becomes so irrational. So irrational. If you haven't been able to tell so far, I am for armed security on schools. I don't want the teachers armed, but I definitely believe that there should be armed security at every school. I've suggested the fact that why not take veterans? Veterans who have come back, who need work, who need jobs. Why not give them a job as school security? Who better in this country to be a school security officer than a military veteran? Someone who knows what it's like to fight in combat, someone who has proven themselves under pressure, someone who knows how to use firearms, someone who understands a tactical situation. These men and women could be protecting schools. They would do a much better job than a lot of people right now. They could protect the schools. You have 2 or 3 armed security guards who are veterans on school property, and I damn well bet you that you will not see any more school shootings. All you hear on the news is gunman attempts to come into school, armed security takes them out. That's what the headlines will be. No more of this nonsense. It's become crazy in the fact of where the left sits and where the right sits. Now, the right is wrong in certain things. Bump stocks should be illegal. There shouldn't be modifications out there to turn an AR-15 into a fully automatic weapon. I'm sorry. Why is the NRA fighting this? Outlaw it. They say they agree, but then they don't agree because then their policy is completely ass backwards to what they're actually doing and saying. But bump stocks should be illegal. High-capacity magazines. I'm one of those people that think that you don't need a 100-round drum for your AR-15. Why? The only reason you need a 100-round drum is if you plan on turning your AR-15 into a fully automatic, so you can fire 100 rounds. Doesn't make sense. Asinine. But I believe that everyone should be allowed to own an AR-15 if they want, to have one, to use one. I mean, it's just a hunting rifle. That's all it is. That's all it is. Alright, well that's going to do it for me today. This has been the Daily Brief. If you like what I have to say, then you should check out The Conservative Mexican, which is just my name but flip-flopped. The Conservative Latina, she's pretty cool. And Adriana Jade, I feel like I continue to say that wrong, but you should check her out as well. All Hispanics, all conservative. We got to make this a community of people, of Hispanic conservatives, because right now there isn't a community, and we need to build one. So that we know that there are other people out there that think like us and agree with us and we can work together. But thank you for listening, and remember, we are here because we disagree.